Let me take a moment and talk about Riverside.fm. It allows you to record studio quality audio and up to 4K video. When you need to record audio and video, Riverside.fm can do it. So if you're looking for a hero platform for all your recording needs, from podcasts to webinars to any video content, Riverside.fm. I've got a promo code for you where you'll receive a 30% discount on the first 3 months of your subscription. I'll give it to you twice. The promo code is SHIPIT. All one word, SHIPIT, and you'll pick up a 30% discount on your first 3 months of your subscription. Riverside.fm.
We've covered a lot of football in these first few episodes of Football History Rewind, all the way through 1894. Well, now it changes era into what I call the stocking cap era ended, and it gets a little bit into the injury-plagued seasons. And we have more about that 1895 and injuries mount coming up in a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. Welcome to the Pigpen. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com, and we have another great episode of the Football History Rewind. We're going through these different years of football. We're all the way up to 1894. We just finished up, and it's been said for a long time that innovation is the mother of invention. And this may be true in a lot of cases, but the innovation in 1893 had some byproducts that were probably not all that desirable by football players and football officials alike. Part 16, it's enlightened to the reader to the strategies developed by men like Lauren F. Deland of Harvard and George W. Woodruff of Yale. That's episode 15. These strategies had a lot to do with the finding advantages by making a mass of men and trying to steamroll a certain point in the opposition's defense. Well, the game formations and strategies were leading to situations that the human body could not physically tolerate. Writer Park H. Davis, in his 1911 book, Football, the American Collegiate Game, illustrated the point very explicitly when he wrote the generals had devised plays too powerful for their sturdy soldiers to execute and withstand. Very poetic and very telling words indeed. Davis also suggests that some of the reports of injury may have been a little bit exaggerated, especially by the members of the European press. Davis's book points out that one such article in the Münchner Nachrichten, I probably mispronounced that very bad, so I apologize to those German-speaking folks out there. It's a German periodical. They reported a story on November of 1893 meeting between Harvard and Yale, where we had part 15 in this series. This sounded more like a battle account in a war than a game played by collegians. Here's a quote. The football tournament between the teams of Harvard and Yale recently held in America had terrible results. It turned into an awful butchery. Of 22 participants, 7 were so severely injured they had to be carried from the field in a dying condition. One player had his back broken, another lost an eye, and a third lost a leg. Both teams appeared on the field with a crowd of ambulances, surgeons, and nurses. Many ladies fainted at the awful cries of the injured players. The indignation of spectators was powerful, but they were so terrorized that they were afraid to leave the field. And a little bit of a writer's note here. Remember, these are the Germans writing this piece. The future instigators of 2 world wars and a horrific Holocaust. So, Davis alludes that the articles like this popped up in the tabloids and the fish wraps alike all around the world, but he felt certain the extent of the reports reeked of sensationalism used to sell papers. And sensationalism and yellow journalism were really running rampant right around this time, the late 19th century into the early 20th century. They did have influence, though, as a public outcry became very apparent in the late 1890s and on well into the early 20th century. the Secretary of the Navy and Secretary of War abolished the upcoming Army-Navy series by restricting members of both academies to their own campuses. No Army-Navy game, 1895. Part of the reason for the reactions of the public was that there was no authoritative council for football rules in any place anymore. The once powerful Intercollegiate Association had dwindled over the years to have just 2 members left, Princeton and Yale. Remember, we're over 100 schools now. The other schools had left the association mainly due to player eligibility disputes and the like. Something had to be done to save this game. Someone needed to rise up and stop the tailspin. The game could die out soon if corrections were not made soon, and would reduce injury and unite all the teams and leagues into common rules that would appease a worried public. But how do you tame this beast that football had become? The University of Athletic Club of New York called for the members of Princeton, Pennsylvania, Harvard, and Yale to come together and assume authority over all football rules to try and tame the beast it had become. The 4 schools immediately accepted the assignment, and they scrambled to elect respective representatives to the newly formed body. The representatives selected were W.A. Brooks, John C. Bell, we've talked a lot about him, Alexander Moffett, and Walter Camp. Good group of men. We've talked about them quite a bit. This group of men decided to make it a 5-some, as they also invited the foremost official of the time, Mr. P.J. Dashiell, to join them and get his perspective and influence into the reformation of the great game. Before the group had even met, Walter Camp sent out a survey to every known former football player in the United States requesting answers for specific questions on the injury plague that had bitten the game. The response by the former players was overwhelming, and Camp categorized the answers to publish them. The results showed many of the same stories were unfounded and very much exaggerated. This report from Camp's investigation made the accusations of outsiders subside almost to the point of non-existent on horrific injuries. The group of 5 then had many meetings in 1894 and came up with a plan to change the game so that injuries did not occur and they were at least greatly reduced. The investigation at camp had shown that most former players felt that the mass momentum plays, including the V and flying wedge formations, were the main items that produced injury. Results of these early sessions saw the group abolish the V formation as well as the flying wedge, and they restored the concept of old-style kickoff. They took care of the mass momentum offensive plays by banning a grouping of players more than 5 yards behind the line, thus reducing the amount of momentum they could produce before they hit the line. The rules revisions were almost radical and widespread changes the game had seen since those of 1882. But they did not satisfy the public yet, though, as it was felt there were more ills to the game than just a couple of formations. We'll further discuss the happenings of football in this situation in part 17, so please look back soon right here on PigskinDispatch.com, your place for the good news about football. And we were able to give this in-depth look from so long ago in history by careful research. Using someone who was a contemporary of the period, that's the best source. So a very special shout out to our main source of reference information for this article. It's from Park H. Davis in his 1911 book, Football, the American Intercollegiate Game. So glad you joined us today. Hope you learned a little bit more about great football history. Appreciate the game even more so than you already do, and preserve that great history, because we have a fine game here, and it's we got to learn from what happened in the past so we don't repeat them, and just appreciate the men and women that fought hard to keep our game of football in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and what a great game it's turned out to be. Hope you enjoyed this piece. Look for us on PigskinDispatch.com. Also find us on SportsHistoryNetwork.com. Till tomorrow, everybody, have a great gridiron day. We're taking a peek over at the chains and the down marker. It's 4th and long. We're going to have to punt the ball and get on out of here, but we'll have another series tomorrow for your football history headlines, so be sure to tune in. We invite you to check out our website, PigskinDispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. PigskinDispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff, for letting us use their music during our podcast. PigskinDispatch.com is a proud affiliate of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of sports yesteryear.
Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.